Good morning, dear learners. Welcome to teaching learning session. Today we'll discuss about rural marketing research. Right. It is very research plays a very important role in marketing. We all know, right? So a rural marketing research process that it exercise that the marketing research exercises may take many form. What is research? Actually a systematic inquiry, right? Research is what? That is the systematic inquiry, and systematic inquiry is a feature common to all such forms, right? Being a systematic inquiry, it requires an to careful planning and investigation process, right? See, it is very important that you should carefully plan all your activities and investigation processes, and it should be, and this research could be a systematic inquiry, right? uh, Whenever we say about the research, there are many steps which are required to be followed whenever we want to conduct a research, right? The first and most important step of any research or any research inquiry is problem identification or problem formulation. It is very important to formulate a problem or identify the problem, what the actual problem is, or for or the question, or you can say the question for which you are looking an answer, right? So problem formulation is the first step. It is important, and if one is not able, or if one cannot formulate the problem properly, then everything will go in vain. So it is most important thing, that is the problem formulation, right? After the formulation of problem, at times we have to, or majority of times we have to evaluate the cost or the value of research. How much cost this research will incurred, or the expenses required to find out the solution for that problem or for that research, right? So after problem formulating the problem, then one has to decide the method of inquiries, right? What all methods one will use for the inquiries. Then research method, then important is defining the research method and the research design. And research method and research design, it is important to research method, to define the research methods and the design. Research method and research design includes many things, like it is important to define your population, right? Your population size, the tools and techniques which one will use, how will you collect the data, right? What all sources are required to collect the data, right? And how will you tabulate the data, what all variables are required for which you would like to collect the data, right? And then one has to decide the type of the variable, what type of variable that should be, right? Then the sample size, and then important is the select the data collection techniques. How will you collect the data? First of all, define, segment the market, then target audience, then define your target audience, then how will you collect the data from the audience, that is the tools which will be used to collect the data, right? What should be the sample size, what should be the sample type, then defining the sample or defining the sample design, it is important, right? After all this, the researchers start collecting the data, right? And before collecting the data, it is required that researchers should be well trained, that how to collect the data, how to use those tools, what to observe, and all those things, right? And then then comes the data collection technique, then comes the data collection. One collects the data, tabulates that data, right? And then after tabulating, editing, coding, after collection of data will be data will be tabulated, edited, coded, right? And then comes the analysis and interpretation of data, right? As per the research problem, we analyze and interpret, we analyze our data, right? And after analyzing that data, we interpret from that data, right? And then our last step is forming a research report, that is, then one writes about each and every process in detail and put the details of research in a form of a report. So this is the see flow chart of to carry out the research. What all steps are required to be taken while any researcher is planning to conduct a research, right? Even if the step of research processes are same, whether it's marketing research in rural area, urban area, or any type of the areas, but marketing research in rural area faces a unique implementation challenge because of difference in the information, communication, and infrastructure. All those steps are same. Not even in the, if you want to conduct the research in the urban area, the step will be same. If you are conducting the research in the rural area, the steps are same. But the marketing researcher in the rural area faces a unique type of implementation challenges, right? Why they face a unique type of implementation challenges? Because of difference in information communication, because of there is a difference in the communication because of the infrastructure issues, and lack of real time information and data, because of the generally low literacy rate, because people are not that much literate, may not be able to understand what you are asking them, right? And so it becomes, at times it becomes difficult to collect the real time information. Market research in rural market is considerably different from the urban market research, right? Why it is different? Because issues like literacy, urban people are more literate than the rural people, right? So it becomes at times difficult to communicate what exactly you are asking them or what exactly you are looking for, right? And they might interpret your thing in another way. So literacy, because of the literacy level, one could find a problem in carrying out research in the rural area. Then the civic amenities, because of lack of civic amenities, the basic things which are required, times the basic things which are required to carry out the research, because those amenities could not be there. Then infrastructure support may be a key challenge to designing and conducting the rural market research. Infrastructure support, right? Right, like roads not possible to go to that place, right? Or to conduct interviews, or to record interviews, or observe the things, because of lack of infrastructure and the basic amenities. A ruler, and moreover, apart from these lack of basic amenities, civic amenities, infrastructure, lack of infrastructure support, or because of lack in the literacy level, because of the low literacy level, there are another factors which plays a very important role. That is, rural India is very scattered, right? At times it becomes very difficult to cover up the region, right? It is scattered type. To collect the data, to collect your target audience, it becomes difficult to move from one place to another place, and moreover, it is scattered and remote and inaccessible. That is scattered. Okay, fine, it is scattered but inaccessible because of lack of infrastructure, or it could be very remote. It becomes very difficult to reach to those places, right? So all this makes the data collection very difficult. Rural researcher therefore needs to seem of a different perspective. So it is required whenever researcher is conducting a research in the rural area, they should have a different perspective, right? Because of all these problems. Right. If we compare the urban versus rural market research on various aspects like secondary data sources, in urban areas, there are the internal data, syndicate research, published media, many sources, and the large databases available to carry out the research as per the secondary data sources. In rural area, it is less number of all categories because of the issues which we discussed few minutes back, right? Then the primary resources, right? In primary resources in urban areas, large number of middlemen are there, right? Experts, sales force, consumers, opinion leaders are there. But in rural area, less number of all categories. There may be less number of middlemen, right? Or expert might not be there, right? Consumers and opinion leader could be less, right? Then the sampling in urban area, respondent from the relative homogeneous group and income can be criteria, right? So in urban area, you'll get a good sample size, right? Or the respondent, those who are of homogeneous type, or on the basis of the criteria. While in rural area, heterogeneous group is there, and income and land holding to be carefully applied. Why it is heterogeneous group? Why it is heterogeneous group? Because different people have different demands, and why they are different? Because of difference in their income, because of difference in their perspective, because of different of their usage of the product, right? So heterogeneous group in rural area, normally groups are heterogeneous type of the group. And whenever we are dividing the rural area on the basis of income and land holdings, it is important to be carefully applied, because the income, they might not, they as we discussed in our earlier lecture, that the income varies and it depends on the season, right? So income depends on the season, and moreover, they could have more than one source of income, right? Because as per in agricultural season, their source of income could be agriculture. When they are not busy with the agricultural activities, they might be doing something else for their income. So it is very important, right, to be carefully applied this thing. Then data collection, that this of in urban areas, the sophisticated instruments like styles and administration, respondents comfortable with number of ratings and the timelines. So you can use sophisticated instruments to collect the data. While in the rural areas, the instrument should be simplified because of the low literacy rate. Right, so instrument should be simplified, and the respondent comfortable with the color, picture, and the stories, rather than the rather than the number rating or something else. So whenever you are planning for a research in urban or the rural area, choose your tools very carefully as per your area of uh, research, right? There are the two types of approaches in research, that is the qualitative research and the quantitative research. Typically, the qualitative research is categorized as being unstructured type of a research, while the quantitative research is categorized as structured type of the research. Structured and unstructured type of the research is what? Structured type of the research is that in quantitative research there are well-defined techniques, tools, right, which one will use to carry out the research. And in the qualitative type, that there are the unstructured type of the research. At times, you have if you are conducting an interview, suddenly a question came in your mind, then you can ask even that question, that could be relevant or irrelevant, right? So it is unstructured or semi-structured, right? So it is normally it is an unstructured type of research. The factors which determines whether to use qualitative or the quantitative approach, both approaches are good, right? But which approach to implement or which approach to use, that depends on the purpose of your research. What is the purpose of your research? Whether it is the purpose could be exploration or the confirmation or the quantification or testing a relationship among variables. So what is the purpose of research? Whether you want to quantify something, whether you want to test a relationship between the variables, or whether you want to confirm something or explore something, that depends on the purpose of your research. And application of results and formulation of policies or comprehensives of the procedure, what how will you apply your results, right? So it depends on the applications of the results, that is whether your research will be used for the formulations of certain policies or comprehensions of the procedures. While research process is mostly the same in both, that is in qualitative and quantitative aspect, there are difference between the quantitative and qualitative research in terms of technique used to gather the data. Although the research process is same, but the difference in qualitative and quantitative technique is the techniques used to collect the data, the method used to process and analyze the data, and method used to communicate the result. The process is same, but the basic difference between the qualitative and quantitative data is quantitative research is that there is a difference in collection of data, right? The tools used to collect the data, right? How will you gather the data in qualitative and quantitative research? That differs. The method used to process and analyze the data. How will you analyze the data? Which techniques will you use to analyze the data? That will differ in both qualitative and quantitative research. And the methods to communicate the results, how will you communicate the results? That again it varies. Using unstructured interviews or observation method of data collection, for instance, is more likely if the research problem lend itself to the qualitative style of inquiry. Obviously, qualitative, if there's a qualitative style of inquiry, normally we collect the data through unstructured interviews when we ask certain things. Unstructured interviews is we have not framed any questions prior, but we have few questions in our mind and we start taking interviews, and then if something comes up in our mind, then we start asking even those questions. That is known as the structured interviews. Interviews could be structured interviews, semi-structured interviews, and the unstructured interviews. So structured interviews, when we have a number of questions with us which we are supposed to ask, that is known as the structured interview. We have a predefined questions and we will ask only those questions from the respondent. That is the structured type of an interview. Semi-structured type of an interview is we have a certain set of questions, but apart from those questions we can ask any question if comes in our mind. That is semi-structured type of interviews. And an unstructured type of a question interview is that we don't have a specified set of a question which we are supposed to ask from the respondent, but whatever comes in our mind at that time, that we'll ask that it depends what type of an interview one conducts. But interview is one of the tool which has been used to collect the data in qualitative research. Again, the observation method is one of the good methods, right, or the best methods in qualitative research, when rather than the asking, one observes the things and then analyze the data. When analyzing data for qualitative research, do so for by looking for themes and explaining what you learned from your interviews or observation, rather than by subjecting your data to the statistical technique. In quantitative techniques, in quantitative research, we normally apply certain statistical tool, and on the basis of those certain statistical techniques, we infer or analyze our data. While in the qualitative research, right, that we analyze the data, or the researcher analyze the data by looking for the themes and explaining what one has learned from interviews and the observation, right? What is their observation, as per their observation what they have learned, or as per the interviews they have conducted what they have learned or inferred, then they inferred as per the what they have learned from those interviews or observation. And in quantitative research, we use certain statistical techniques, and on the basis of those techniques, we infer or analyze our data. Right? There are certain techniques of rural marketing research. What all are the techniques of rural marketing research? The techniques for conducting rural marketing research can be divided into three broad categories: the desk research, the survey research, and participatory rural appraisal. Uh, right. So these are the technique for conducting the rural marketing research. First is the desk research. What is the desk research? Desk research basically involves the collection of information from the documentary sources or other published or unpublished sources. desk research. It is an armchair type research when one conducts the research on the basis of the secondary data which have been published or unpublished sources, which we get from the published or unpublished sources. So desk research typically involves the collection of information from documentary sources. The search for source of secondary data or collection of document is only the preliminary part of the desk research. That is when we collect the data from the secondary sources. The actual desk research involves the compilation, processing and analyzing of secondary data in accordance with the objective of the research. You have certain objective and you collected the data from the various secondary sources. Then on the basis of that, the basic thing of this desk research is the compilation, processing, and analysis of secondary data. That is it, which you have collected, which one has collected from the secondary sources. Desk research provide a background information for selection of most promising rural markets for in-depth investigation, right? So what's the use of this dex research? It provides a background information for selection of the most promising rural markets for in-depth investigation. It can point out the specific factor that should be investigated. So it helps us as to define our objectives. What all are the factors which is required to be investigated, right? As a result, the test research could be used for the general and limited information on rural market, as well as a preliminary step in effective planning and conducting the survey research in the rural market. So it helps actually the desk research or the literature, or in other words, you can say it is a review of literature. It helps us to defining our objectives or defining or identifying the problem, and it gives us the factors which could be investigated or which should be investigated. So the research could be used for general and limited information on rural market, right? The preliminary step in effective planning and conducting survey research in the rural markets. What all are the sources of data? The sources of data could be government sources or the private sources in desk research. Government sources like a wide variety of information and data are useful and relevant for the marketing, right? Like the information provided by the government, government provides the information about the population, about the economy, about the policies, programs, industries, institutions, rules, regulations, and published in the form of reports, documents, journals, notification, etc. So government publish various type of data in forms of journals, in forms of reports, in forms of gadgets, in forms of documents, or other things. While the private sources, there are the research institutions, publishing houses, banking and financial institutions, chamber of commerce, trade association, right, and a host of other similar organization, right? They give a different kind of the information in their respective areas of concern that could be relevant for the rural marketing. So sources could be the public sources or private sources. So, what are the limitation of desk research? The data may have been collected and manipulated for a specific use. Therefore, it may be incomplete, ambiguous, or out of context. See, because here you are dependent on the secondary type of a data, and the data collected, the data which has been which you are accessing could be manipulated or collected for a specific use, right? The use or the objective of that research could be different, right? So data could be incomplete, data could be ambiguous, data could be out of context. right? Data may be corrupted by methodological and interpretative problem, right? Suppose because of the certain type of the errors, right? That is the type 1 error, because of the type 2 error, or data could be manipulated because of the type, apart from type 1, type 2 error, the sampling error could be there, section error could be there, right? Language and social organization are trained, because of lack of the trained work, the data could be corrupted, right? There could be problems with the data. Data may be non-existent, unreliable, or incomplete. So all these are the limitations of the desk research. So in short, what is the desk research? Desk research is that research when one collects the data through the secondary sources, and this desk research actually plays a very important role in identification of the problem or defining the objective of the problem. It gives us the idea what all variables are important and should be studied in the rural context. But there are certain limitations also with this desk research. The other type of research is the survey research. As the name indicates, the survey research, the primary distinction between the desk research and the survey research is that the desk research are already available, but whereas data for survey research are generated during the research. Survey research is when you generate the data through surveying, and the data has that the survey that the data are generated through at the time of research or during the research. Desk research provides the general background or a framework for planning and conducting survey research for collection of primary information specific to the rural marketing needs. See, survey research is when the that survey research is based on the primary type of the data. Primary type of the data means what? When the researcher collects the fresh data from the uh, required population or the samples, right? That is known as the survey research. And the data in the survey research, the data has been collected during the research, right? See, in the desk research, as we discussed, that the desk research could give us a framework for planning, right? It could help us in defining and identifying our problems and the objective, right? And it could provide us the framework how to conduct the surveys, right? And survey research actually collects the data required as per the objectives or our problem. There are the two different ways to collect the data in survey research, that is namely that is the communication and observation, right? They have merely been formalized and systemized by the formal research. So you can collect the data in survey research through communication and observation. The communication method is that there is a dialogue with the respondent, either spoken or written. It could be in the form of interviews, or it could be in the form of questionnaires. You give the questionnaire to the respondent, and they will fill the questionnaire and give it to by you. That is a written type of a communication. Or it could be the spoken type of the communication, where it is, for example, the that is your interviews, right? So communication method, while observation method involves keeping track or monitoring the behavior of subject matter of research without interfering with, right? Observation method is you are not interfering with the subject matter or the respondent, but you are observing them or monitoring their behavior without any of the interference. That is the observation method. Survey of experienced individual. Many marketing problem can be solved by speaking with people who have expertise and idea about the research topic. Right, so you can ask them, those who have already conducted the research on those type of the topics, those who are experts. You can speak to the people, those who are expertise and ideas about the research topic. These individual could be the top executives, could be the sales manager, could be the salesperson, channel member, right? So those who handle the product or the related product and consumer and the potential consumer. Then other could be the focus group discussion. What is focus group discussion? The focus group, which has informal approach, involve gathering a group, usually 6 to 10 targeted respondent, to engage in extensive free flowing discussion about their experiences or viewpoint. Again, this comes under survey methods. That is the group discussion is group discussion is that is it is an informal type of the approach. That this type of approach involves gathering a group of usually 6 to 10 people. When you call 6 to 10 respondent and you engage them to in an extensive free flowing discussion about the experiences or viewpoints. When you ask about their experiences, about their viewpoint, that is the focus group discussion. Then comes the third method is participatory rural appraisals. What is participatory rural appraisal? This method is extensively used in social research. What is participatory rural appraisal? Give me a second. Participatory rural appraisal. What is participatory rural appraisal? This method is extensively used in social research. It is a method in which the respondent or the rural consumer is very actively involved, right? So, as the name indicates, participatory rural appraisals, where the rural people or the consumer or your target consumer is actively involved in this research, right? Like choose a location that facilitate the discussion and increase the chances of receiving response. So it is very important that you want to involve your consumer in the discussion. So it is important to choose a location that facilitates the discussion and increase the participation or the chances of receiving the responses. So it is important to choose the location, appropriate location. The researcher can become more comfortable with the area by taking the transit walk through the village. It offers a chance of observation regarding some of the issues and informally collects the opinion. Right? Talks, Starting the talks and getting better understanding of community and its important resources can be accomplished by mapping the village location and the resources and using number of tools to capture the additional data. So participatory research is what? In participatory research is that when one involves the target consumer in discussions, right, or in research, that is known as the participatory research. Right. Okay. Rural marketing research for marketing gain. Why is it required to conduct the research, or why it is important to conduct the research? Right. Like games can be used for efficient marketing research techniques since they encourage the group participations. So there are various methods which could be used. Like the games could be used as a research technique. Right. Traditionally, we use 5 to 7 to 10. Point scale that are ineffective in the rural setting because they need a high level of consumer knowledge. We all know about the Likert scale, right? Either we use 5 scale, 7 scale, or the 10 scale uh, tool to collect the data. But in rural setting, it is of no use because they need a high, because this 5.7.10 scale point scale, they need a high level of consumer knowledge, and they rural people don't have that much knowledge. Rural consumer lacks the advocate capabilities, right? Rather than that scales, you can use the pictorial scale. Scales may also be reduced to 3 points, requiring the less complicated information processing. For this kind of study, the TAT, that is the thematic appreciation test, can be quite useful, right? So it is important to carry out the research, and it is not that difficult, but there are certain things which one should take care of while you conducting the research in the rural areas. right? Now, the product and the service decision for the rural market, right? It is important after conducting the research, right? Why we conduct the research so that we can meet the needs and wants of the rural consumers, right? It is important now. It is important to understand the product and service decisions for rural market. What should be the product and service decision? Rural markets need to deliver value to consumer by developing suitable product at a price they are willing to pay and at a place where they can conveniently purchase the product. So this is very important. See, you cannot offer the same product to the urban people or to the rural people because of many of the differences in their buying behavior, buying decision process, right? Buying decisions. Like for them, for rural people, that price matters a lot, right? So it is very important to for the business to develop the suitable product, which needs to develop the suitable product for the rural area, rural people or the consumer, which can meet their needs and demands and develop the product at a price they are willing to pay. It is important develop the product which could meet their needs and and develop that product at the price which they are willing to pay. So it is important to take care of the price, that and that product should be should be available at the right place where they can conveniently purchase the from where they can conveniently purchase the product, right? So, four P's are still the tools, and four A's are the challenges, right? There are four P's and four A's. Four P's are still the tool. Four P's are what? Product, price, place, and promotion. So, develop the product as per the requirement, right? At the price they are willing to pay. It should be available, right? At the place where from where they can conveniently purchase that, and it is important that you should promote your product, that you should communicate to the audience that that product is available in the market. There are four A's. Four A's are the challenges. What all four A's are the challenges? That is the acceptability, right? It is very difficult, or it becomes especially in the rural areas, that they are not readily, they are not easily ready to accept the product. Then price is affordability. It is important that keep the price of the product so that the rural people can afford that product. Availability, right? To availability means what? Availability means that should be readily available to the consumer so that they can consume it when they need it. And awareness is required, right? Because of the lack of the resources, they might not be aware of many of the products. So four A's are the challenges and four P's are still the tool, right? Availability, right? Availability, why it is challenge, right? In India's 6,000 6 lakh 38,000 villages are spread over 3.3 million square kilometer. Thus finding them is not easy, right? It means in short that that they are scattered. The villages in India or the rural India is scattered type of. Given the poor state of Indian road, it is a challenge. It is a great challenge to send the product to far away villages on a regular basis. We discussed about the lack of infrastructure. Because of the lack of infrastructure, because of the poor state of the Indian road, at times it becomes difficult for the organization or the company to send the product to the faraway villages. Then the companies would do best by first reaching out the villages of population above 5,000, and next stage move on to the villages with population of 2,000 to 5,000. So it could be like this, right? HUL has built a strong distribution system with stockists using auto rickshaws, bullock carts, and even boats. Say for examples, right? It is because of lack of infrastructure and because of the scattered geography of the rural India. What HUL has done, the HUL has built a strong distribution system, right? With stockists, they built a strong distribution system using the auto rickshaws. They started using the auto rickshaw, bullock carts, and and boats, etc., to for their distribution. That the coke as a company depends on supply twice a week to a large distribution, who in turn supply to this small distribution in other areas, right? So coke example, another example could be the coke. That what the coke did is they supply to the depots twice in a week, and from those depot that could be distributed further. LG has the 45 area offices and 59 remote area offices, right? So these are the availability. How can you make that available, right? Then the affordability is what? Affordability is, it is important that it should be affordable with lower incomes, right? The product should be affordable to the rural consumer, many of whom are daily wage earners, right? So affordable, as we said, that it is important that the product should be available and affordable, right? Because the income of rural people are less than the urban areas, right? So it is important that the product should be available to them at affordable rate, right? Example, Mujawar. It is important that uh, product should be available, right, to the consumer at the price they can afford, right? Because of the lower incomes, the product should be affordable to the rural consumers, many of whom are daily wage earner, right? Say for example, Godrej introduced three brands, that is the Synthol, Fair Glow, and Godrej in 50-gram packs priced at rupees 5, meant specially for Bihar, MP, and UP, right? Because of the less of because of the because of the low income, they introduced the same type of a product in smaller pack, which could be available. Just, there, wait, it's not- See, affordability, right? It is important that your product should be affordable to the rural consumer because of the low income. For example, the Godrej has introduced their product at a lower cost, right? Another example is Coke, right? That they came out with a 5 rupees Coke bottle, right? Then another example is Videocon, right? Videocon introduced the washing machine that is named as washer, priced at just rupees 3,000, right? So it is important that you should make available your product at lower cost, so that it could so that rural consumer can afford the product. Then the acceptability is another thing. See, at times it is very difficult, right, to change the mindset or the perception of the rural consumer, right? It is the responsibility of the marketer to make aware about the product to the consumer, so that they can accept the product, right? In order the product to be accepted, it needs to suit the mindset and the requirement of that market, right? When will one accept the product? It will accept the one will accept the product, right? अरे नितिन सर, फिर मुझे लग रहा है इसके ऊपर है कुछ छत्ता, वो देखो। वहां ऊपर से निकल के मुझे लग रहा है कोई छत्ता वत्ता बना हुआ, वहां से निकल निकल के आने लगे।
कैंसिल करा सर, कैंसिल करा देना सर।